apparently the person that was repossessed still living in one of those rooms.
No way.
So I was walking about taking photos and doing videos and stuff.
A little golem
and the guy,
hidden somewhere.
exactly, he's hiding in there, not like peeking out. That was creepy as hell.
John Morris from Prime Property Auctions, who has also had many appearances on Homes Under the Hammer.
Set up in July 2022 out of my attic. So it was just me. My wife had literally just had her first baby. And
Good time for it then.
oh, perfect time. I mean, and we're also doing a renovation of our house as well. So it was all guns blazing, everything was a go. We're already the second biggest auction house in Scotland, and we're going for number one.
Right, funny story time. So the first time we kind of met with your past company that you worked for at the auction. So that house that I bought it by mistake.
It's actually surprising how often that happens as well. We were playing chicken. Yeah.
And we lost. Or won, depending on perspective. 51 back, we'd put in like 50, so I actually got paid £1,000 towing it.
There you go. You know that guy looks like Tyson Fury, sells houses, like go speak to him. Yeah. And I just heard the floor just start to crumble, and I was like, oh fuck. And it just literally, so luckily I was on the ground floor, fell into the basement. I had to like basically drop her in.
No way.
She had to like get the camera, and I had to pull her back out, and then I had to go photograph the rest of the property. The BBC loved me.
It's because you look like Tyson Fury.
That's exactly it.
Don't have the budget for Tyson Fury, we'll go get Big John.
Yeah.
You're the people that I come to if I can't sell something anywhere else.
Definitely.
You must see some carnage.
Yes.
Talk to me about that. Welcome to the show where we talk to successful people about the bits you don't see. Today we're talking to John Morris from Prime Property Auctions, who has also had many appearances on Homes Under the Hammer. Hi John, how you doing?
Very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fantastic, apart from being in wet, cold, miserable Scotland. In fact, Glasgow, which is even worse.
We made sure to turn the heating on to try and make
Thank
it
you.
as much like the desert as possible for you.
Good, thank you. So yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to your story. I've got a funny story for you in amongst us as well.
Oh, excellent.
Which is fun. So yeah, tell me, what is your story? What you got going on?
Well, ultimately, I mean, we've dealt with each other before. I mean, you bought a property from me from my last job.
That's part of the funny story.
I qualified from university, and I'm actually a qualified surveyor, but the idea of doing home reports for the rest of my life
miserable.
Made me want to kill myself,
Yeah.
and I was just like, I'm more of a salesman at heart anyway, so got offered an internship that, obviously my previous job, started literally making the teas, worked my way up all the way to general manager, and from there, after COVID, it was just kind of like, it was very evident. I mean, I really wanted to push the social media aspect, be the front face, and they just had differing ideas, didn't really believe in social media, and then I decided to take the leap myself, so set up in July 2022 out of my attic. So it was just me. My wife had literally just had her first baby. And
good time for it then.
Oh, perfect time. I mean, and we're also doing a renovation of our house as well. So it was all guns blazing, everything was a go. And it was kind of like, I need to make this work. So I've been doing it had been doing it for about 10, 11 years at that point anyway. Had a very good network, know how to sell properties very well, know how to value properties, and it was kind of now or never.
Yeah.
Took the leap and started selling quite a lot of properties, but I think I was very hard on myself. I used to sell between 25, 35 properties every single month in my previous company. So when I set up my own, and I think
where's my 30 properties?
That's exactly it. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to get to there really quickly? And then thankfully for me, my now business partner, Lewis, he's very shrewd businessman. He had a business, he's property investor as well, and was kind of looking to exit his other business and came on board. And I was doing everything from like going out to properties, photographing them, putting up the boards, speaking to the sellers, speaking to the buyers, creating the listings, putting them on Rightmove, absolutely everything. And he kind of came in and was like, we need to kind of systemize this a little bit better. And has just like sat and studied me like a lab rat and say, okay, well, how can we put the systems in place? What do we do from here? What do we do from here once we sell a property? How do we get the legal packs off to the solicitors, X, Y, and Z? So we worked out the attic for about 6 months.
So you and him in your attic?
So he came on board, and my attic's like, it's a weird way to get in because it's like a janky staircase, and there's a tiny little like carve out that you've got to go in. So I was like, come into my office, and then took him up. My wife's like changing a crying
With the new
baby.
baby.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hi there. And then he sat there and he was like, just teach me what you do. And I just taught him how to do it. And then I would go out to properties, he would do sales calls, try and do some deals. And then we moved into an office just up the road from where we are just now. And we moved 3 times in a year in that building.
What, just growth?
Just growth. We were just constantly growing. So we hired a sales guy. He wanted to come and intern for us, and I was like, I don't want an intern. I'd rather just pay you. And then we hired Nathan, our media man, because we wanted to really push on the social media aspect of it. And then last June we moved into this office, which, as you've seen, it's not exactly a small office, and there's room to grow as well. If we wanted to double the team tomorrow, there's plenty of space. So we're now 2 years in, 2.5 years in, and we're already the second biggest auction house in Scotland, and we're going for number 1.
Nice. Is number 1 the one you used to work for?
Yes.
How far away are you?
Quite a bit, I would say. I think they have about 500 properties on the books. At any one time, we currently have about 300.
That's not far.
It's not far.
You're more than halfway, and you've done that in 2 years with probably a year of not doing it very well.
Yeah, from a standing start,
yeah,
it's been pretty good. And we've obviously got really good sales guys now, and we're really on like making sure the guys, when they're speaking to buyers and sellers, they understand what they're talking about. We're selling investments here. Yeah. It's not dream homes for everybody. So it's understanding the numbers, understanding the metrics of what actually constitutes a good investment. So they're getting really good now, and we just need to keep on that. We'll probably hire more sales guys once we get more leads and things like that.
So that was something that I had to speak about today, was like, I kind of predicted from your videos and stuff, I'm going to be walking in and this is going to be like a sales floor, and they're going to be shouting down the phones and stuff. That's more of a sales floor than I even expected. Yeah. That is like the sales, pit. It's like Wolf of Wall Street, like all shouting down the phone. How do you create something like that?
Well, it's just that's kind of all I've ever done. Because when, I don't know if you ever came to my office when I had the one in Edinburgh.
I don't know if I did.
But it was a very small office. It was probably about the size of this room. And ultimately, it was just me for a large part of that. I set up the Edinburgh branch. So I was just used to, it's like, I don't want to sit alone all day. So I got on the phone all day, every day. And I just got very good at speaking to people all the time. If you want to do deals, you've got to pick up the phone and speak to people that want to buy or sell. Yeah. So that's what we tell them. It's like, if you're sitting about not doing anything, you're either creating a listing because you've just spoke to somebody that wants to sell, or you're on the phone trying to sell that listing you've just made. So you need to be on the phones. That's why people do business.
What sort of numbers are they doing in a day? How many people am I phoning if I'm out there?
It really does depend, because a lot of people they'll inquire on Rightmove and stuff like that during the evening, and then the guys will come in the morning to phone them and stuff. And then some people work, they're not picking up their phones, but they're big on, it's like how many touch points they'll say, okay, so the system, as soon as somebody inquires, sends them a text message to prompt them for an offer. We send them an email with all the details, so the legal pack, the home report, obviously a link to the listing, and it also tells which agent that's going to call them. The agent will then send them a WhatsApp, what time's the best thing to do. So we really are like, let us talk to you. Let's find out if there's a deal to be done. Yeah. But I mean, anywhere between 150, 200 calls they should be making a day, but we've got a minimum call time of 2 hours in a day.
Right. Okay, so it's not necessarily on call volume, rather just call time.
Yeah, call time. But then, I mean, you could spend 20 minutes on a call. It's fucking pointless.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, I obviously, well, the name is auctions.
Yes.
But what you're describing there is not necessarily auctions. Yeah. Like, is there like an overlap?
So, what I found is, so people that are selling at property, they're selling the properties at auction, they want it sold. And they've usually been on with an estate agent and they've been messed around, the property keeps falling through, whatever. And at that point, if you've bought a property for £100,000, it's now worth 200. And an estate agent keeps on getting you, offer 220, but they can't get the mortgage. Oh, they'll offer 210, they can't get a mortgage. At which point it's like, well, I bought it for 100, I've already found a new house I want to buy. I'd actually take like 180 for it anyway. I'm happy just to get this property sold. So then they come to us and we'll go, okay, we've got someone who's willing to offer you 180. They're going to pay a deposit. I mean, that's really the crux of an auction sale, is you've got to pay a deposit and you've got to complete within a certain time period. It's usually 28 days. So we hold all our auctions online. They're every 2 weeks. So we had one yesterday. which was very good. We've got some good results for our clients. And really popular properties will go into the auction and they'll go crazy. I mean, last 2 weeks ago, we had an auction with a property on it, a guide price of £15,000. It ended up selling for £75,000. So the seller's like super pleased. The buyer's obviously a builder. He's like, I could have gone higher as well, but the next bid, nobody came. So I'm happy where I got it for. That ultimately is paid deposit on that day, complete within 28 days. The majority of deals that we do, and that's why we've got the sales guys constantly pounding the phones, is make me an offer. Make me an offer. But it's still under auction terms and conditions. You've still got to pay that deposit and you've still got to complete within a certain period of time. Because if most people assume that auctions, it's only cash buyers. But what we've done quite well is kind of blend it to allow first-time buyers or people that need mortgages as well. It's like, okay, well, you want that property. Do you have a deposit? Yes. But I need 8 weeks to complete. Fine. So you're happy to offer £100,000. We'll ask the seller, but you want 8 weeks to complete. So we pick up the phone.
You still do your deposit as well?
Yeah. So the person still wanting to pay the deposit, but they want, instead of 28 days, they want 8 weeks to complete. Is that okay with you? And the seller says yes. Then perfect. Invoice goes out. As soon as the deposit's paid, the deal's done. We complete the legal documents and get it off. So it is still an auction sale, but we are a little bit more fluid with it and not ruthless. It's like, well, pay the money now. If you don't pay by this date, we want to work with buyers and sellers.
Makes sense. Now, how many like actual auctions do you do?
So we do 2 live auctions every month. So we do
Oh wow,
every 2 weeks.
So still quite a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, nice. Right, funny story time. So the first time we kind of met with your past company that you worked for at the auction. So that house that I bought it by mistake.
You bought it? Did you bid in the wrong property?
Not quite. I mean, sort of. We'd looked at it, not very well, me and my mate. Like, we'd been like, oh, how about that one? We'd never really done anything before. And we were like, let's go. And we were like, we didn't really want to buy anything. I think we wanted to be kind of cool and big and, well, we're going to go and we're going to put our hand up at auctions. And so, like, it started in a total shithole. Like, it is in the worst part of, like, the country. And it started, and then it kind of got to a price where we're like, oh, we would maybe pay that. I think one person put their hand up, and then we did, kind of like half joking, like, oh yeah, well maybe, and then like they kind of started ticking, and like nobody else was putting their hand up, and we were both sitting there. We started to giggle. We were like, oh shit, like we don't actually know if we want this.
Actually, just bought a property.
And then hammer came down. We're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
And then you take us through. And I don't even know if you maybe even remember. We were like giggling, like, oh shit, I can't believe we've just done this. And then we had like, what was it, 4 weeks to go and find 30. We didn't have the 30 grand either. Yeah. We had 4 weeks to go and find the 30 grand. Obviously, we ultimately did it and we got the property. But so our first interaction, we maybe didn't actually mean to buy that.
It's actually surprising how often that happens as well. People will say, oh, I wanted to maybe bid on it. We run them all online now. We don't do any in-person auctions, so it's a little bit less likely. Because people are scared if they're in a live auction they sneeze, and then I'm like, oh well, you're bid on that. We do get some people bid online. They were like, oh, I didn't mean to push the button. Just like, yes, you did.
Come on.
Yes, you did. So there's terms and conditions in place. If you are participating in that auction, then you're liable for the deposit and the auction fees. So. There was somebody that bought from Future Before as well. I think they've got a GoFundMe page. It's like, what have we done? Because again, they were trying to buy a flat in Denniston or something, and then the flat in Dunoon came up, and they bid on that by accident. And then they got it, and it was a whole night. I think they've done a podcast on the Scottish Property Podcast. It's a very interesting story. They've actually turned it round, and they've managed to get the rest of the flats that they need to have a nice big house. But it's more. I think in live auctions it happens more often than you think.
I mean, we meant to put our hand up. Like we didn't mean to do it. We just meant for somebody else to put their hands up after.
You were playing chicken.
And we lost, or won, depending on perspective.
You still got that flat?
Yes. So funny story. We had a great guy moved into it, done it up. It was decent. So we bought it for like 31,000, your fees, and then. Done it up for 15. We got a mortgage valuation of 70, so we got 51 back. We'd put in like 50, so I actually got paid £1,000 to own it,
there you go.
Which was great.
The perfect PRR.
Yeah, exactly. Literally money in, money out. Obviously, we had to quite quickly find that money, but we managed it. Got the mortgage, paid back who I needed to pay, and first guy that moved in, bit weird, but he paid his rent on time. Just one single guy, like fantastic. he left, like moved to Thailand, I think, to be weird. And, we got
Is this why it's called the bits you don't hear?
yeah. I went and got a bit weird, and this other couple moved in, paid rent, like couple kids, dog, like the whole shooting match, and I made a bit of a mess of the house. But it was like, it's not in a great area. Like, I just had to take what I could get. They stopped paying the rent, and then they sort of sometimes paid the rent. This is actually another kind of quite mental story about it. I probably got paid like 1 in every 3 rents, and I just not really dealt with it. This is now quite recent. Over probably 2 years, they probably paid like, a third of the rent they should have. And I had a letting agent managing it. And my girlfriend was like, "What's happening with your house?" I was like, "Well, to be honest, I don't get paid very much, but they don't have the money clearly, and I just can't be bothered dealing with it." So she was like, "I'll deal with it." I was like, "Right, fine, I'll buy you some earrings or something if you can actually sort it out." And so she's phoned up, and it turned out that this is actually quite sad, but the guy who owned the letting agent had died. It was like a guy and like a couple of people. It wasn't a very good letting agent. Anyway, his wife's taken it over, and Tal, my girlfriend, was like, "We're going to pursue the people," because they were just about to leave. "We're going to pursue them for what they're due." And the letting agent was like, "Well, it's not really like worth it. It's not that much money they're due." And we're sitting here with a spreadsheet of like 12 grand that they're due. And Tal was like, "Can you send me what they're due?"
Yeah.
Because we think it's quite a lot. They sent through a spreadsheet, and it was like 3,000 or 4,000. And we were like, "What's happened here?" So Tal's compared all the dates that I'd been paid to all the dates that they'd been paid. And they'd probably paid 2/3. I'd only been paid 1/3.
Right,
so the letting agent had been pocketing it. And they've obviously not realised, because it's obviously been the guy that owns the company. He's died. His wife's then sent over the stuff, and it doesn't match up. Now, I don't know how he would have sorted it when we'd started asking questions, but I reckon what's happened is they've obviously been struggling for money. When they've not been getting paid, I've not been chasing it. So then he's maybe been thinking, "I'll just keep that to pay those bills and I'll send them it a bit later."
Yeah.
And it's just ran away from him. And anyway, we'd done a deal where we were like, "You're going to need to give us the money." I was actually really happy it was letting agent, because I was never going to get it from the people.
Yeah. You don't want to be kicking somebody out.
Exactly. So we ended up doing a deal. They gave me £1,000 a week for like 6 weeks. And sorted. But
it's turned into a good asset.
I mean, well,
ups and downs.
Ups and downs. They've now moved out, and I've got a new guy in. This is only recent, maybe 3-4 months, but he's paid his rent on time for 3 or 4 months. So
Have you changed the letting agents?
I've got a new letting agent. We do have a new letting agent, and would not recommend the ones that we had to others. So yeah, it's been a roller coaster, but I mean, ultimately it is now a decent asset, and it does well. My friend Lewis, who I bought the first one with, we ended up doing a deal where I took it and he took something else. I can't even remember what it was. I maybe took on the responsibility of the debt for it or something. He's now buying like serious stuff. He's buying like portfolios of 6 and 10 and stuff. He's got, I think, 30 or 40 properties now. So he's doing better than me on that front. And it
all started from accidentally hoping that you didn't
exactly
the property.
Exactly. It all started from an accident. So yeah, a bit of a wild ride, but it works well now. It does. And I would buy more. Obviously, I spoke about my deal just before we came in that I'm doing. I will probably do some more property stuff after that. It's kind of swallowed up my entire life. But yeah, it's kind of coming to an end now, or coming to a start. That means I need to put less into it. Anyway, enough about me. Something that you said that was really interesting. We can see obviously you've got kind of content guys helping here. Your second hire was a content person, is that right?
Yes.
Why?
Well, I know how to do everything in the job anyway. What I don't know how to do is create the content. So Lewis and I went to an event in Glasgow, the Financial Freedom Summit, where I'm really into my watches. So I wanted to see Nico Leonard, and he basically said being on YouTube saved his business during COVID. And Lewis and I had got a couple of freelancers in, because we understand it's like we're going to push the social media, so every time I was going out, I was doing it, but it's just another thing I have to do. So we got a freelancer in, and then, I mean, when we first started, obviously we didn't have as many properties on the books as we've got now. So sometimes, like days, there's not really too much happening. So we were trying to film some fly in the wall stuff, and the guy come in, and it was like nothing really happened that day, and we were just like, he gave us the views and they were good. But what we understood is like we need somebody in the office all the time. And we put up a job advert and Nathan applied for the job and we did a shortlist and had a couple of people. Because I think obviously when people see property, like it's like they assume they're going to go in and photograph the properties and stuff. I mean, the media team do nothing of that. They are in to film us and create content around, because the way I look at it is more eyeballs on me, on the company, know that we can sell the property, than even if just like someone's like, oh, do you know that guy that looks like Tyson Fury, sells houses, like go speak to him kind of thing. So we hired Nathan, and I think in the interview he was like, so am I going to be taking photographs of it? I'm like, not at all, you're going to be filming us. And he was like, well, how do I make that interesting? I was like, that's what we're fucking hiring you for, man. So he's obviously just come in and done a very good job, and we then hired Matthew as well. So Nathan focuses mainly on the YouTube and the longer form stuff, because we've got our own YouTube channel where we've got a couple of mini series, so we do vlog stuff of like what's going on with our events that we go to, what's going on in the office, and then we've got one, Gaffs Under the Gavel, which effectively is we go out, we meet the people who bought it, see what they bought it for, what their plans are with it, how they're going to do it up, and we go see it. And obviously most of the properties that are dealt with, there's always good deals there. And then we do a couple of other fun series, Reddit Reacts, where Nathan picks some interesting properties from Rightmove for me to look at and say, what the hell's going on here?
I've seen a bit of that.
Yeah, they're always good fun. Yeah. But it's just, for me, I didn't need another salesman. I can do the sales. I can be on phone all the time. So it was more, what am I not good at?
Yeah.
This, I'm not good at it. I'm going to hire someone who's really fucking good at it and pay them to do it really well. Yeah. And that's what we've done. So we've got people to do those things for it. There's no point of trying to figure out, obviously at the start you want to try and figure out things, but what I wanted to focus on is getting properties on the books and getting them sold, generating cash flow in the business to be able to ultimately grow
everything else. Yeah.
So, and it worked very well, thankfully.
That makes sense, and I think that it's no surprise that you've gone so big on content so quickly and you've then grown so quickly. Like, content is so valuable, and I think that so many businesses miss that and so many people miss that. It was something I clicked to early in my business and we were able to grow. And I think you'd said that your previous people that you worked with, they didn't like that idea at all. And then look what you've been able to do with it. Yeah,
I mean, they actually told me to take all my Instagram down. Take it down, don't do it. And I've got loads of clients who I've dealt with over social media, and that's why I saw. I was like, well, I can speak to people over social media and get more clients without actually ever having to necessarily meet them. So I don't know. It's probably just a control thing as well. But it's good that it happened, because it meant that.
Oh well, yeah. Look at it now.
There was a kick maybe that I needed, and say, well, I want to do this, and I have. So.
Yeah, I seen a thing on, I don't know, it was somebody else's podcast that is like, it was Chris Williamson. He says there's a level of kind of annoyingness that people accept, but when it gets worse, you go, shit, right, I need to fix this. And that sounds like that's probably that point for you, and it's propelled you to here now. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I got paid very well at my previous job, and I enjoyed it. I mean, I obviously still do the exact same job. Yeah. It's not the job. It was just like, if I want to move the needle and I wasn't being allowed to. So here I can say, well, I want to allocate spend on this. I want to do this. Let's do this. And it's one of the things that Nathan actually said in the interview. He was like, oh, would you be open to skits or anything like that? And I was like, yes, like anything. And we do have a lot of fun with our content, which again, it's like, we are a very serious brand. We deal in selling people's properties, which is a serious thing. It's like some people's only asset they're doing. They're trusting us to sell it, and we're fucking very good at that. But we also are normal people in here. Well, maybe
I don't know about
that. Not normal, but we're easy to get on with, and we're easy to speak to, and it's like we understand. It's like not everybody's like highbrow when it comes to selling the properties. They want the property sold at the end of the day, and that's what we focus on doing. And I focus on generating as much attention as possible to the company. So
yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, I guess they probably thought it was maybe unprofessional to be posting on social media and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe.
You've kind of taken that and gone next level. Like let's play on that.
Yeah,
and let's make it work.
It was just funny as well, because the stuff I used to post on my socials was nowhere near like what it is now. But as you say, I've really just dug in and gone, well, this is my brand now. Let's really go for it.
And it clearly works. Right, Lewis. So what you spoke about in Lewis is like exactly what I probably needed when I started, because I'm a bit like you. We'll go and sell, and we'll go and market, we'll do this, and we'll do that. And I never had somebody to go, wait a minute, how about rather than let's like figure out how it all works and systemize and stuff like that. It sounds like he was a bit of a godsend to you in probably early days.
Honestly, absolutely fantastic. He is the perfect yin to my yang, if you like, because I would just still be selling out the attic, all that stuff. And I've got the systems, I know how it is, but it's the actually building it. So we've got an off-the-shelf thing that you can build the blocks off the back of it. And for a lot of the time, because when Lewis first came on, he was like, you don't have to pay me anything, and then we did a deal. Anything that he sold, he got commission off the back of that. But I understood his skill set. There's no point in me just paying him on every deal he does. I was like, let's get him part of the business. So he's got shares in the company, and he could then focus on building the infrastructure that we needed, and I focused on selling. Yeah. Because that was what I'm really good at.
And that's what you're both good at,
yeah. So it's like, you go make sure that the systems are slick as hell, that when we're doing things, because what we want is, obviously we've got the sales team, but it's making their job as easy as possible and the system having to do a lot of the heavy lifting for them. So it took us a very long time. I mean, we've changed like softwares, we've changed auction platforms, and it has been, I mean, we've got a full-time developer now as well.
Oh, nice.
Which is, I mean, he messaged me the other day. We're actually making a new website just to make it like really clean in the front end and really quick. But he just messaged me, he's like, our website is just so wrong. Like, because I got my friend to make my website. I was like, I just need to be able to publish properties on the internet for sale. People can offer them. He's like, I can do this. And then we've added a plugin here, a plugin there, a plugin there, and it's
like Frankenstein.
It's just janky as hell. Whereas people will want the finished article straight away. But I was like, as long as I can sell people's properties and physically take payment for them, everything else can be dealt with down the line. So we are dealing with these issues now, but it's taken us obviously to really be able to iron them out, and we're still constantly tweaking it, because the better the system is, the better the sales guys can be, and then the more properties we can ultimately sell.
100%. Right, before we go into the bits you don't see, talk to me about some client wins.
I mean, what do you want to hear client win-wise?
Like the biggest win, the one that you're like, I can't believe that's happened. That you can talk about.
I sold a portfolio to a client of mine for another client, and it was getting kicked about off market for ages. It was also on with Tyrant Ash Real Estate as well. Yeah. It was a massive portfolio.
He lives out in Dubai, I think.
And the one, I know one of the guys, I say I know him, messaged him quite a lot over Instagram, Alex, and I was like, what are you selling these for? I've already sold like a couple in the building, because I was like chipping them off, like, because they owned like basically the whole block, and the sellers were like, we want to sell a couple of them, and I was slowly selling them, and I was like, I'm already selling a couple of these, and he was like, I'm selling the whole fucking block, like obviously just having a bit of banter with me, and I was like, no problem. Couldn't sell them. Nobody could sell these things. And I managed to get them sold. And basically the guy who was selling it was leveraged to the hilt on them. And he's like, John, I need these away. Managed to get a deal done, struck. But that was also a fucking nightmare of a deal, because he's like, this is the rent. Yeah. But the rent was wrong. Then I was like, well, how many arrears? And he's like, well, there's no arrears. And then then there is arrears. And he's like, of course there's some arrears. It's like 25 properties. And I was like, for fuck's sake. So it was a bit of a nightmare, but it was good, because I obviously pay a lot of referral fees. If somebody's got something to sell, they can't sell, they give it to me. Once I sell it, I pay a referral fee. And it tends to always, seems like it comes back to me. And this specific client that was selling it, he kept on getting kicked back to me. He was like, go deal with John. Yeah. John will actually get these sold. So it is more like, people come to me, it's like, we're struggling with this. Yeah. Let's get it sold. And that's what I'm really good at. So that was a really good client one.
Nice. Right, what is your proudest moment? It could be personal, it could be business, it could be anything.
Proudest moment.
People always struggle with this one.
If we'll just stick for purely business, I would say when we moved into this office, there was something like, just really I remember the fear, like, and it was proper fear when I was, and as I said, my wife had just had a child, and I was terrified, because I've always like made good money and I got paid very well, and I'm quite diligent on where I invest and things like that. And there was just a sinking feeling of like, what happens if this doesn't work? And my wife was amazing. She was like, you can get another job, like that's not a problem. But I was making it out to be the worst thing ever. If I fail at this, I failed at life. And she was like, you're not going to fail. You're really fucking good. And then from knowing how I felt then of like, shit, if I can't put food on the table, I've failed at life. So being able to, like, when we moved in here, because it was just, there was no partition walls or anything. We had to get it all done up.
Proper done it up. Yeah.
So there was, like, when Lewis and I came in here and we'd signed lease, and it's not cheap what we're paying, but I was like, there was just, like, I felt really, really proud that from going from where I felt when I was working out the attic to where we are now, there was something about that.
That's massive. And it's like, going from your house to like a physical location as well, like that's so big. Well done. Right, what's next for Prime Property Auctions?
To be the biggest in Scotland. That's the main goal. So we need to, as I say, we're at about 300 listings at the moment. So we effectively need to double. And if we can double the team in that time as well, because I want to have really good sales guys that I get on with. I want to have a good sales flow when I come in, and see when I'm sitting in my own office and the doors open and I just hear the rabble of all the sales, because I love it. I love it. So I want us to be selling at least 100 a month. At the moment we sold 35 last month, which is our best month ever. So we kind of like double that up. Let's get to 70, 100 sales a month.
Nice.
I'm really happy with that.
Like that. Bits you don't see. Talk to me about some of the bits you don't see about what you do and what you've got going on.
With ourselves, I mean, ultimately people know if you pay a deposit and you don't complete, that's really the shit you don't see. So if someone pays a deposit and then we, in the back end, so obviously some other auction companies, I know well, they're just like, well, if you don't fucking complete, you lose your money. Because ultimately if it doesn't complete, you can put it back on, you can sell it again, so you get paid again. Whereas we want to build relationships with buyers as well. So we had, he was a good client of ours as well. He bought a property and he was promised lending, but then when the valuation came back, he wasn't going to be able to have enough money to pay for it. And we'd already given him, I think, 6-week completion. And he phoned up, and this property was in Aberdeen. I think it was worth maybe 70 grand. He bought it for like 45 or something, right? And he was trying to do like a day one refinance, but the valuation came in wrong. And then we managed to extend it a further 2 weeks. And even the seller's like, well, why don't I just keep the money? And we're like, well, then we've got to find somebody else to buy it. And you said you wanted it sold. We could just give this guy another 2 weeks. Or you can keep his money and fuck him. Like, it's up to you. It's up to you. You are the seller ultimately. But then we've got to put it back on, and you get to keep the deposit. But is that worth not actually getting the property sold? So a lot of the things that we're doing in here, and again, that's what I'm trying to teach the sales guys to do. It's actually client management and keeping on it, because once the deal's done, fair enough, it goes off to the solicitors. But there's shit when it's like, oh fuck, I can't get the money. Well, why can't you get the money? Is your broker shit, or are you just going with a standard high street mortgage broker? We can put you into contact with commercial brokers who can fix it. That's a lot of the shit that you don't see, especially when it's like, as you say, it's like, it's an auction. You not just go to an auction and like, oh, I buy it. It's like there's lots of stuff of that running about, and especially for properties that aren't selling, it's okay. Well, what are we doing to get bids on the property? Because that's what I always say. Anybody who's selling with us, it's like, okay, well, we will get offers for you. And then it's just trying to constantly work them up, because people will throw in offers, something's at 200 grand, and they'll be like, I'll give you 100. And we're like, okay, we will always ask the question. So some clients will be like, go fuck yourself, or tell them to go fuck themselves. And we're like, we'll do it a little bit more politely than that, but we will always take the offer forward. And that's why we say to anybody who's looking to buy, make us an offer, we will ask the question, but don't get angry at us if they don't accept it, because you get people like, oh, well, that's all it's worth. It's like, they don't have to sell it to you. It's their house, they don't have to sell it to you. But that's lots of the shit that you don't see. But again, people being...
People.
I mean, some clients, they'll just be like, oh, well, we can't get access to it. But like, well, how do you want... We're selling a commercial property. And the guy's like, I don't want you to get access because it's let out to a Chinese takeaway. And he's like, I don't want the tenants knowing I'm selling. It's like, well, why? Why don't you want them to know? Oh, because they'll leave. No, they fucking won't. Like, just stupid things like that. And it's like, if we get in, we get photographs, we do a video tour, we do a floor plan, we do the job properly, we'll sell your property. I don't want you in. So it's like, oh, so we'll just take a couple of photographs of outside.
Outside, when
And-
nobody's there.
Shutters down. It's like, no one's buying that property. And also, with takeaways, in my experience anyway, usually the tenant will buy them off, and they're happy to buy through auction.
Yeah, that makes
But
sense.
it's just a lot of dealing with clients who think it should be done a certain way, and when we say no, it should be done this way, and they're like, I don't agree, and it's like, well, do you want the best price for your property, or do you want us to just put it on the books and it not sell?
Or it sell for not very much.
Exactly.
So you're the people that I come to if I can't sell something anywhere else.
Definitely.
You must see some carnage.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
I've been in a lot of hoarders' houses, which are interesting, and it's always funny because, if there's something like I was like, that's a sexy property. It's not your mansions with your swimming pools. It's usually a 3-bed end terrace house that looks like it smells of piss from the photographs, because as an investor I know there's value to add there, and if you can buy a property, add the value, refinance it,
Like
exactly
what I
like
done
you
with mine,
did,
yeah.
exactly, that's good for me as an auctioneer, because the majority of people that are buying from us are investors that want to buy stuff, then do it up and rent it out, whatever it is. So I mean, I had one incident when I was selling a commercial property up in Perth, and I actually fell through the floor. So it was an Indian restaurant, and it was gubbed outside, and it was a tiny Chinese woman, and I was like, oh, I'll just take this was when I used to go out and photograph the properties myself.
It's a shame that it wasn't when you had the content guys.
Oh my god. so I'm like, I will just walk out, and I'm walking over, and I just heard the floor just start to crumble, and I was like, oh fuck. And it just literally, so luckily I was on the ground floor, fell into the basement. I hate spiders, right? And then just getting covered in cobwebs. I was like, I could feel my beard. I was like, ah. So I like managed to climb out, but I've left my camera in the floor. So I'm like, oh no. So I go to this woman, I'm like, my camera's in there. So I had to like basically drop her in.
No way.
She had to like get the camera, and I had to pull her back out, and then I had to go photograph the rest of the property.
Oh my god, did you sell it?
Damn right I did. Damn right I
With hole in floor?
Yes, exactly. Well, the person was like, can I view it? And I was like, I will tell you this, there's no point of you viewing it, because last time I was there, I fell through the floor. And they were like, oh, so it needs everything done. I was like,
Bit of work.
Everything done.
Bit of work.
So,
That's funny. I thought there was going to be stuff like that. Tell me some more of them. You must have loads of them.
What else? I went to we obviously deal with repossessions as well. I was at a property in Dundee, and it was like a scrapyard, like proper scrapyard, and like cars on top of cars on top of cars, and it was a lovely big detached bungalow, but the whole front garden, like, so I had to climb over a car to get into the front door and stuff. And then in hoarders' houses, they basically usually just have there's stuff stacked everywhere, and there's just a strip that they walk from each room to each room. But I could hear something in it, like I was like, fucking somebody's in here. So obviously anything, we've obviously got reports, so I phoned the agent that instructed us on it, and I was like, I don't know what's going on in there. They're like, oh, apparently the person that was repossessed is still living in one of those rooms.
No way.
So I was walking about taking photos and doing videos and stuff.
A little golem
and the
sitting somewhere.
Exactly, he's hiding in there, not like peeking out. That was creepy as hell. Like, see, after I came out and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
If he jumped out at me, I probably would have shit my pants.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's mental.
Yeah.
Oh. Homes Under the Hammer. Actually, wait, no, one more before Homes Under the Hammer. Because we've obviously spoken about some pretty crazy stuff. Do you ever get to somewhere and go, nah, this one's not for me, mate?
Never.
You keep that. I'm not touching it.
There's properties in Port Glasgow that we won't touch, because they've been kicking about different auction houses for ages, and you can't do anything with them. They're condemned. You used to be able, there was a one block in it that were still rented out, but stuff like that. Actually, I had the client who's got like 10 of them phoned in, and I was just told the sales guys, we're not listing them. There's a waste of time.
They've been around since I bought mine,
And
because I remember looking at them.
Yeah, and I don't have to tell you, don't buy them.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
Oh,
don't
this
buy
looks
them.
great, 10
Yeah.
grand, all right.
Exactly. So there's just nothing. No one's making any money from
Yeah.
them, and the council want to knock them down, but they don't have any money to knock them down, and there's still landlords. They're not going to buy them off them, and there's just a whole shit show.
Yeah.
other than that, that's really, like, I don't know any other properties I wouldn't really sell.
Nice. That's a bit of a strapline, isn't it? There's no properties I wouldn't sell.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Homes Under the Hammer. So obviously, it's typically the wins that you see on Homes Under the Hammer. Oh, we've come in, we've done great, and then we've gone. Like, surely there's losses, and like, what happens to them? Do they just not show them?
I think it depends on how crazy people go on refurbs. But what you sometimes do in Homes Under the Hammer, and it's like it needs rewired, needs a new kitchen, needs a new bathroom, needs painted, decorated, everything. You're looking like 20, 30 grand spend. And then the guy's like, I think I'm going to spend £5,000 on it. And you're like,
I see that all the time, don't you?
And what planet are you spending £5,000? But most people who buy them, who want to be on the show, usually are happy enough with it. And even if the value doesn't come back at quite what they want, as long as they're looking to hold it, I think a lot of the people who tend to be on the show actually do hold it for buy-to-let purposes. Most of the people that flip properties that we've dealt with, they just say they can't be arsed being on the show. They're like, we've got other builders and stuff, we've got other stuff going on, we can't be bothered. Because when you go on Homes Under the Hammer, they're like, okay, well, this is the date we want to be in. But say you purchase the property on Monday, and they're like, well, we've actually already got filming booked in that day. Can we come the following Monday?
So no, I need to get moving.
That's it. If you're like, as soon as I get the keys, I've already got the rip out started, I've already got this planned, X, Y, and Z. If I waste a week because I want to be on the show, it's just a wasted week.
Yeah.
So I can't think of any major losses.
That's good.
To be honest, that I've dealt with.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was actually talking about Nathan when we were going up to film for the show. Like, people will buy stuff at auction, decide they don't want to buy it, and what they'll do is just give it back to us. So I had one, it was a part-built property on the way up to Fort William. Somebody bought it, and then they're like, oh, it's more work than I can be really bothered doing. I think they bought it for 60 grand, and they were like, if I get 60, I'll take it and put it back on. And we ended up selling it for 75 for them. So they, like, that's, they're like, oh.
Do it again.
Yeah, that's it. So that's, if you're not, if you don't need the money, and you're happy to wait, you can always wait.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I know a guy who bought a bit of land from another auction house, was not told the full story with it. I think he paid 30 grand for it. And I was like, to be fair, even if you fix the issues that are there, obviously when we try and highlight, like, this is the issue, but this is the potential upside if you fix the issue. Yeah. If you're sometimes if you're up front and say, well, this is the problem.
You want to know the issue, yeah. Like, I was interviewing somebody earlier on today, helping my girlfriend, and I was like, I actually wanted to hear her problems because that was going to help me go, yeah, I like you. Yeah. But she kept kind of avoiding the problems. Like, that's not, I don't believe you now.
Because we get that a lot of people will buy from other auction houses, and then they're like, oh, it was only just one photograph and it's worse than I thought. We had one client who bought it, and we obviously go out, we do our photographs, we do our video tour, and he was like, oh, no, it makes it look too bad. And I was like, but people then know
what you want, yeah.
They know what they're going into. Unlike you who bought something like, oh shit, it's worse than I want. Yeah. You want the person who wants the property that's got those issues that they can fix and do up. So... but the person who bought that bit of land, I think he ended up selling it for the same price. So by the time he's paid fees, solicitors' fees and stuff, we ended up losing a couple of grand. Yeah. But it's a time thing. If you're like, I just want rid of it and I just want out.
That's what I think probably suits you guys a lot. Is I'm sure you'll have a lot of people that's like, I'm over leveraged or whatever, and I just need to get rid of it and get it done. Yeah. I think that makes sense. How many times have you been on Homes Under the Hammer?
Oh, over a dozen. Never off it. Never off it, Cam. The BBC love me.
It's because you look at Tyson Fury.
That's exactly it.
Don't have the budget for Tyson Fury, we'll get Big John.
Yeah. So now we're on it frequently. They are, because a lot of the properties they deal with are down south. Yeah. So they want more Scottish properties. So it was actually one of my clients is friends with Martell, one of the hosts. And she was saying to him, like, we need more properties in Scotland. He's like, why don't you speak to John? And then, so the BBC took me out to Glen Eagles and took me out for the day, and they're like, well, can you give us more properties? It's like, yes, of course I can. So the thing is, though, some people don't want to be on the show because either I don't want people knowing that I've got any money, I don't want people knowing my business, or it's going to take a while, we do this. Some people are happy to be on it.
Some people love it.
Some people love it, but there's a lot of people that buy the perfect property. Yeah. They're like, this is going to be great. And they're like, I don't want to be in the show. So that's we get stick from them. Like, we need to give you more properties. It's like we asked the buyers, do they want to be on the show? If they say no, I can't force them. So and there's also some stuff that we sell, because we sell tenanted properties as well. they don't want that.
Yeah.
They don't really want that. So it's more a lot of the properties we sell maybe are not going to be good for the show. It's like somebody just bought something that doesn't need a lot done to it, but the seller just needed a quick sale.
Yeah.
This doesn't make a good story. It's like, actually, I need to paint that wall, and I'm going to move that bed into that room, and then that's me done. They're like, what a shite episode of Homes Under the Hammer that would be.
Yeah. Talk to me about like legal problems, because when you're buying and selling houses, you must hit quite a lot of them.
So we had one recently actually, and it was a divorce case. So the wife wanted to sell the property. That was, I mean, what she wanted was, we were like, we'll definitely sell that, it's no problem at all. But then when we've obviously got to get all the title documents from the solicitors, got everything back, but the solicitors were like, she's only 50% owner of this property. So then we actually had to postpone that auction like 3 times, because we're like, we don't have the necessary documents signed by the other seller. He eventually agreed to sell it, and we got them a really good price. But there's lots of that going back and forth, or someone phoning up like, I want to sell my property, and then they go, oh well, it's tenanted. It's like, okay, so have you got a lease in place for it? It's like, oh well, it's tenanted to my brother.
Cousin John.
Yeah, exactly, stuff like that. And you're like, okay, well, there's no lease. No, he used to pay me rent, but he doesn't pay me rent anymore. I'm like, okay, well, if you're selling it tenanted, there kind of needs to be some sort of lease, otherwise effectively you've just got a
it's
squatter.
Not tenanted, yeah.
Yeah, you've just got a squatter in your property. So we do try, and it's part of the workflow as well, when automated by the system. When we list something, we obviously get all the legal or the solicitor's details, and then we request it as soon as it's listed. So we got the home report, we've got the legal documents from there, because people have the assumption that because it's at auction, there's something terrible with it. But 9 out of 10 times, it's just somebody who's pissed off with their estate agent. They need it sold quickly, or inherited. We deal with a lot of inherited stuff. So again, maybe they've had it on with an estate agent. The estate agent's not got the result, and they're like, look, I just want this done now. Or it's been on and they've had an offer, it's fallen through. That's really the safeguard you get when selling at auction. So as long as we get all the legal information promptly from the solicitors, it's usually fine.
Yeah, makes sense. You must have a lot of like deals that fall through at points. Like, I guess buying and selling properties, like there's always going to be, you get to a point and then it falls through. How do you deal with that?
Because you've got to pay a deposit on acceptance.
You're probably better placed than a standard
estate
agent.
Estate agents is about 30% of their deals fall through. So people make offers subject to mortgage, subject to roof report, subject to their granny like in the back garden, whatever the fuck it is. Whereas if someone makes us an offer, so say someone offered me something right now and we got it agreed, we send them an invoice. If they don't pay the invoice, then it's
never started.
Then it's like, well, we know they're not a waste of time. Whereas somebody would make an offer with an estate agent, it goes 6 weeks down the line, and then they're like, I'm not going to buy it. At which point the seller's lost.
And they never
6
actually
weeks.
were. Whereas you cut off right at the start.
Yeah. So we very few deals actually fall through with us, but the seller actually benefits if it does fall through. They'll get the deposit, so they've actually been paid for a transaction falling through, and then we just put it back in the market and find another buyer. But it's very, very, very few. We always give extensions, or we try our best if the seller's happy to. It's like, look, just give them another couple of weeks,
It'll be done.
and then we don't have to worry about finding you another buyer and stuff like that. But it's very few.
Yeah, that helps that your business model kind of suits things not falling through.
Well, it's a very expensive mistake for a buyer. If somebody buys something for 100 grand, by the time they add in fees and stuff and solicitors' fees, they're in it for like 16 grand, almost 20 grand. So
they kind of can't back out.
That's it. It's like, I mean, when you offer to buy something, you go find the money. So it's either you go find the money or you've made a very expensive mistake.
Well, when we done it, it wasn't a question we weren't going to get it, because it's like we're just going to set fire to 5 grand or whatever it was at the time. So we've actually just got to go and get it.
Yeah.
And we did. And it worked out all right in the end. Any more bits you don't see? Is there anything we've kind of missed? It's like, oh, that's a bit of a challenge that we've not spoke about.
Genuinely, the bits you don't see, because everyone thinks that at auction it is like you go into a room and you get bidding. The stuff you don't see is the sales guys pounding the phones, it's like, oh, how is that going for that? Or how is this sold? It's them chasing up people. So it's like we are an auction house, but like they make the deals happen. Like it's being on the phone constantly to buyers and sellers. Because if a seller's got something at £200,000 and we know, look, it really needs to be at 160, it's making sure you're on the phone to the sellers and saying, look, if you want this property sold, you need to be considering less offers. So that's it. I mean, as you say, when you came in, all the guys on the phones, they're
Loving it.
they're always trying to be on the phones to people, making sure that there's deals happening. But other than that, we are very present on social media. We're trying to pull back the curtain a little bit on like what goes on day to day,
and that's what sells. That's what makes people trust you and like you, because that's the truth.
Yeah. So other than that, I'm sure if I was maybe better prepared, I could come up with hundreds of stories of properties. Actually, our photographer that deals with us now, this is a very interesting story. So he started doing photographs for Lewis for all his rental properties before he put them on the rental market. And when Lewis started working with me, he was like, is it okay, I'll give you a freebie. So I'll do 5 properties for free. I'll show you what I can do. And his work's great. So then obviously he's our full-time photographer now. And he was like, and he messaged Lewis, he's like, did John used to work for another auction house? He's like, yeah. He's like, I bought a house off him. In that specific house, so the person who owned it lived abroad and they were renting it, but the person wasn't paying them rent. What had happened is somebody had gone in, turned this with a 3-bedroom house in Livingston, and they'd just put up partition walls all over it and turned it into an HMO. So a guy who just went in, basically take ownership of it, changed the locks, and he was renting it out. So a private investigator had to come into the office and go like, well, what's going on with this? I had to then go meet the PI, then go meet the tenants, because the tenants, I was like, and then we had to get a translator because they were all Polish. And they were like, I know you're paying this guy rent, but the guy you're paying rent doesn't own the property. And they're like, what do you mean? And then I was like, you guys need to move out. You don't have, and the PI was like, this is a fucking shit show. So I ended up selling that property to Christoph.
Right.
He then did it all up, flipped it, made loads of money. So that was the first ever dealings I had with our photographer. So I sold him a property. So it's a common thing. People have always bought something from me.
Come back. If you could go back to the very first day before you started doing auctions, and you could either go and do it all again, or you could go and do something completely different, what would you do?
I think I probably would have started Prime earlier. I think other than that, I'm happy with my journey. I think everything has happened for a reason, and it's brought me here today. So if I changed one thing, would it have changed what's happened? But I reckon I waited a little bit too long to go out on my own. But again, because I've got my own portfolio, and I wanted to make sure that my portfolio was going to cover what I needed to make sure. And I think I probably waited longer than I needed to, but I'm happy I did. So
that makes sense.
Really change anything that I've done.
Everyone has said that I've spoke to, maybe said I would have done something different, but everyone said, apart from one guy who was like involved in like guns and drugs and shit, so and rapping and all that sort of stuff. So I can see why he would have maybe gone a different way. And he's now like a full Muslim, so I can understand why he would have maybe started somewhere different back at the start. Right, where do people keep up to date with you?
So Instagram is where to get me. So John_property_auctioneer. I'm trying to be better at posting on LinkedIn, but I don't. I hang out on Instagram, so if you message me on there, call the office. And primepropertyauctions.co.uk if you're looking to buy properties. That's where to go.
Nice, right. Thank you very much, John. It's been great, and thank you everyone at home for listening. We spoke to somebody great today. Hopefully you can like, share, follow, and we can speak to somebody just as great next time. Thank you. Thank you, man.
Top man.
Cheers.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that.